Diddy's Dirty Deeds, a timeline of guilty verdicts, lawsuits, and abuse allegations. Hey y'all, Shannon has news. Lawsuits, they go back a long time. So the year of offense we're starting with is 1990. Diddy's Dirty Deeds against Liza Gardner. According to a November 2023 lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs and the R&B singer Aaron Hall allegedly assaulted Liza Gardner and a friend after a music industry event, then beat Gardner several days later when confronted. She was 16 years old. Gardner says in her lawsuit that Combs and Hall took turns harming her and a friend after meeting them at an event at MCA Records' New York office. She says that she was physically forced into having relations with Combs against her will, and that because she was a minor, she was not able to consent to drinking the alcohol allegedly given to her by the two men. Included in the lawsuit is a letter from Gardner's former therapist. She states that Gardner told her in 2014 that she had been physically harmed by two men in New York at the age of 16. Gardner says that after the assault, as she dressed, Hall barged into the room, pinned her down, and forced himself on her. The lawsuit also claims that Combs turned violent days after the violation, choking the child until she passed out. Year of offense, 1991. Diddy's Dirty Deeds against Joy Dickerson Neal. According to a November 2023 lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs allegedly drugs, assaults, and videotapes 19-year-old Joy Dickerson after a date in 1991. Her action against the music mogul came just one day before the expiration date of the Adult Survivors Act, the ASA. So the ASA was a window in time from November 24th, 2022 to November 24th, 2023 for abuse survivors in New York to seek retribution. Dickerson Neal alleges that in addition to the assault, Combs participated in image-based abuse against her. The footage was allegedly shared with associates in the music industry. So I do believe that that was shared possibly with 50 Cent. And I do know that he had posted something on X a while back. I know that, full disclosure, y'all know that I have friends in the entertainment business. If they need my help sometimes on things like extra work, as crew casting, different things like that, I do help them. So I have worked on Black Mafia Family that Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent produces. And so, I know that he is about to come out with a documentary, y'all. It's a Netflix documentary. It's been approved. He produces Black Mafia Family. A lot of things that he produces is doing well. So I'm pretty sure that this Netflix documentary will come out very well done because, he's not new at the entertainment biz by no means. So we're going to see how that pans out. But I do believe that he had posted on X a while back that he had actually been shown some footage of maybe some things that had been taped by Sean Diddy Combs. And so he's apparently aware of a lot of things that was going on, and he's ready to tell, like a lot of folks that are coming clean now. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so, and, we'll see, because once, as you know, how when one person is able to come clean about their knowledge about other people, some other things that was going on with their colleagues and things like that, you never know, you may find out that you'll have another group of folks that will come out after that with information about them, and it just becomes some kind of tennis match in a way of information coming out between those. So you never know what we're going to get from all of this. We'll see. It's definitely going to be going on for a while, y'all, for a while. So the footage was allegedly shared with his associates in the music industry. We're talking about Combs now. Dickerson Neal says that on January 3rd, 1991, Combs spiked her drink while she was in the restroom at Wells Restaurant in Harlem. After leaving the restaurant, She asserts that Combs transported her to 2 other locations, a recording studio and his home. The lawsuit states that Combs subjected Dickerson Neal to so much abuse that it resulted in the teenager having severe pain. Dickerson Neal says Devontae Swing, a mutual friend, told her that Combs had shown him the tape. Year of offense, 1994. Diddy's dirty deeds against April Lampros. April Lampros filed her lawsuit in New York in April 2024. She states that she has endured abuse from Sean Diddy Combs for many years. According to Lampros, she and Combs met in 1994 when she was a student at New York's Fashion Institute of Technology. Lampros says that Combs promised to mentor her, introduce her to music and fashion industry executives, and help her find work. Her lawsuit goes on to state that what Combs displayed as kind gestures quickly manifested into an aggressive, coercive, and abusive relationship based on sex. In the first abusive encounter in 1995, Lampros alleges Combs pressured her to drink at a New York City bar and then later at a hotel. She says that she was laid on a hotel bed where Combs forced himself on her. Lampros states in the lawsuit that the assault continued even after she pleaded with Combs to stop, and that she was nude, hurting, and confused the next morning. And then one night in 1996, according to Lampros, Combs forced her and the now deceased Kim Porter, who's also the mother of several of Combs' children, to consume a certain love potion at his apartment, after which he demanded the two have relations. Lampros says that when she refused Combs' menage a trois, he threatened that he could make her lose her job. Lampros says that after that encounter, she attempted to leave and distance herself from Combs, and he immediately switched his approach and became angry, threatening, and forceful. Her lawsuit states that Combs had developed this mobster persona, and Lampros was in fear of him. She says that she ended her relationship with Combs around 1998, but that they met up somewhere again, somewhere between late 2000 and 2001. That's when Combs violently grabbed Lampros and forced himself onto her, kissing and touching her against her will, the lawsuit claims. She felt that if she disobeyed him, he would take away her dreams of pursuing a career in his world, the lawsuit reads. It goes on to state that Combs would also threaten to blacklist her in the industry if she tried to mess with him in any way. Lampros says her dreams and everything she's been working hard for were in the palm of his hands. I bet so. Defendants named in Lampros' lawsuit include Bad Boy Records, Arista Records, and Sony Music Entertainment. Lampros was an intern for Arista, a subsidiary of Sony and former parent company of Bad Boy when some of the abuse occurred. Alleging Arista Records enabled the abuse by placing Combs in a position of authority and failing to protect her. Year of offense, 1995. Diddy's dirty deeds against Gary Miller. Y'all, his violent tendency has really just been going on for many years, and it has just been swept right under the carpet. In 1995, New York Post photographer Gary Miller was taking photos of Sean Diddy Combs' company cars when Combs and about 10 of his employees surrounded Miller and menaced him with a pistol and seized his film. Later, in a 1996 court hearing, Combs was found guilty of criminal mischief for threatening Miller with a gun. He was fined $1,000. Year of offense, 1997. Diddy's dirty deeds against Derek Lee Cardello Smith. A Michigan inmate claims Sean Diddy Combs drugged and assaulted him at a party in Detroit in June 1997. Cardello Smith says he met Combs when he was working as a bartender and was invited to a party where he drank with Combs and some women before they all later engaged in a group relationship. The suit claims Combs offered Cardello Smith a drink that, he believes, was spiked, causing him to pass out. When he woke up, Cardello Smith says he he went to the bathroom and found himself bleeding. In early September 2024, Cardell Smith was awarded a $100 million default judgment against Combs. A few days later, Combs' lawyers fought back, seeking to set aside the judgment, saying Combs was never informed of the suit and only learned of it through the media. I think we all knew about that suit, and he ended up being the last one to know. Year of offense, 1999. Diddy's dirty deeds against Steve Stout. In April 1999, Sean Diddy Combs was accused of assaulting Universal Records executive Steve Stout. A record executive. In a lawsuit that was settled out of court, Stout said Combs and two bodyguards barged into his New York office, beat him with a champagne bottle, and bashed him with a chair and telephone. The assault occurred after Combs allegedly blamed Stout for a misguided cameo in Nas's music video. Combs was crucified in the Hate Me Now video and allegedly tried to have the scene removed. He blamed Stout when the video appeared unedited on MTV. He punched me in the face and then he grabbed the phone and bashed me in the head with it, Steve said in a May 1999 interview with the Los Angeles Times. One minute I'm in the middle of a meeting, he says, and the next minute I'm down on the floor and Puffy and his guys are kicking and pounding me. One of them picks up a chair and throws it at me. Then Puffy throws my desk over and they just walk out like nothing happened. The New York Daily News reported that Combs would pay Stout producer and management fees amounting to $500,000. Combs faced 7 years behind bars, but Stout reportedly asked the Manhattan District Attorney to drop the charges following an apology from Combs. Though the assault charges were dropped, Combs reportedly pleaded guilty to harassment and was ordered to attend 1 day of anger management classes. Diddy's dirty deeds against Rogelio Mills. In 1999, Rogelio Mills, then host of The Roger Mills Show, accused Sean Diddy Combs of ordering an assault on Mills and his staff. Mills, who was hosting a celebrity entertainment show at the time, filed a lawsuit against Combs, alleging Combs and his entourage attacked him and broke his camera following an interview. So what ticked Combs off? A question regarding the death of fellow rapper Christopher Wallace, a.k.a. Notorious B.I.G., a.k.a. Biggie Smalls. Mills said that when he asked Combs about rumors he was involved in the 1997 killing of Wallace, the interview immediately concluded. In February 2004, a jury found Combs not guilty. Diddy's dirty deeds against Natanya Rubin. Natanya's making her rounds across the internet circuit right now. She's telling her story. Of course, she's been telling her story. People are really listening now, though. So amid a December 27, 1999 shooting at a New York City nightclub, a bullet hit Natanya Rubin in her face. Rubin has said in several interviews that she saw Sean Diddy Combs point a gun at her and shoot her in her face. Despite a jury acquitting Combs in 2001, Rubin maintains Combs is the person who shot her. I would absolutely, unequivocally like the case reopened. It needs to be reopened, Rubin told News Nation in March 2024. And the saddest part to me is, well, this is the saddest part. Had people taken what I said more seriously and listened more intently, 24 years worth of people probably would not have had to suffer. The blame went to Shine instead. Diddy's dirty deeds against Moses Barrow, a.k.a. Shine. In 1999, Moses Barrow, a.k.a. Shine, was convicted of first-degree assault for a shooting inside a New York City nightclub that left 3 people injured. Sean Diddy Combs was also accused of shooting, but during the trial, he said he fired the gun in self-defense. Entertainer Jennifer Lopez was also at the nightclub and charged along with Combs. After police chased the shooters down, the weapon was found in their vehicle. Lopez's charges were dropped, but not after the soon-to-be superstar was handcuffed to a pole inside the police station. Natanya Rubin, who was shot in the face during the incident, has always maintained that Combs was the one who pulled the trigger that harmed her. Barrow was sentenced to 10 years in prison in 2001, released in 2009, and subsequently deported back to Belize. Combs was acquitted of all charges. In a recent press conference held in his native Belize, Barrow, who serves as the leader of the opposition in the Belize House of Representatives, shared his thoughts on Combs' recent arrest and accused the music mogul of having destroyed his life. When I was an 18-year-old kid, just wanting to do nothing other than make my mother proud and Belize proud and be recognized for my talent and take over the world, I was defending him, and he turned around and called witnesses to testify against me. He pretty much sent me to prison, Barrow alleged. Let's not lose sight of what the cold, hard facts are. This is not someone who I vacationed with and someone who I enjoyed the great, intimate relationship of brotherhood. This is someone who destroyed my life and who I forgave, and who I moved on, and for the better interest of Belize, because he was in the position at the time to give scholarships and maybe to invest. Year of offense, 2001. Diddy's dirty deeds against Thalia Graves. Thalia Graves says she met Sean Diddy Combs when she was 25 years old through her boyfriend, who worked for Combs at his record label, Bad Boy. In a lawsuit filed September 2024, Graves says that in the summer of 2001, while in a vehicle with Combs and Joseph Sherman, aka Big Joe, his bodyguard at the time and head of security, she accepted his offer of a glass of wine and began to feel lightheaded, dizzy, and physically weak. She says she lost consciousness and later awoke naked in a studio in Manhattan with her hands tied behind her back. That's when, allegedly, Combs entered the room and immediately assaulted her and smashed her head into a pool table as she tried to resist. The lawsuit states that Sherman was also present and assaulted Graves as she went in and out of consciousness. At a 2024 news conference alongside attorney Gloria Allred, Graves spoke through tears about the assault. She says that in November 2023, she learned from her former boyfriend that Combs and Sherman had recorded and published the video of the assault and had shown others. The lawsuit accuses Combs, Sherman, and businesses associated with Combs of violating New York's Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act and accuses Combs and Sherman of violation of state civil rights laws and city administration code. Year of offense, 2003. Diddy's dirty deeds against Crystal McKinney. Winner of MTV's 1998 Model Mission Competition show, Crystal McKinney says Sean Diddy Combs drugged and assaulted her in 2003. Adding to the pile of lawsuits against the music mogul, McKinney alleges she was attacked at Combs' New York City studio when she was just 22 years old. The former model says she met Combs at a men's fashion week event at Cipriano downtown in Manhattan, where he told her she was going to make it big one day, promising to help her career, naming Combs as Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Entertainment, Sean John Clothing, and Universal Music Group. McKinney's lawsuit states Combs invited her to his studio where one of his associates offered a joint of Mary Jane and allegedly said, "You've never had weed like this before." McKinney says she later came to understand that Combs laced that joint with a narcotic or other intoxicating substance. McKinney says that after becoming extremely intoxicated, she was physically led by Combs to the bathroom where he allegedly assaulted her. McKinney passed out in Combs' studio shortly thereafter, the lawsuit states, and waking up in a taxi, she realized she had been assaulted. McKinney says she saved the clothes she was wearing that night in a plastic bag. Year of offense, 2004. Diddy's dirty deeds against Adria English. In a July 2024 lawsuit, dancer Adria English claims that she was drugged and forced to have relations with party guests during Sean Diddy Combs' infamous white parties. She says that she worked in the Hamptons, in New York and in Miami repeatedly for several years. I just want to say, as far as these white parties go, I'm Gen X. A lot of these people that we're talking about here are my age. And, obviously, I say our generation, was, the 80s was just not the holiest years of, this era. People partied like crazy. There was a lot of partying back then. I tell you what, though, no matter how wild a party got, we would have never even thought about doing the things that they have done, allegedly, at these parties. English says she was recruited by Bad Boy Enterprise employee Tamiko Thomas and was employed by Combs to act as an eye candy model at his Hamptons White Party for the first time in the summer of 2004. She claims Combs instructed her and the other models to drink from specific bottles that he laced with a love potion, and though she was not required to be intimate with anyone at the first party she attended, she was groomed into traveling for relations over time by Combs and Thomas. English says they forced her to engage with guests, claiming that her past in adult entertainment was a reason to downplay her being traveled around. Though guests at the notorious parties were required to wear all white, English says on many occasions she was given a little black dress to wear to denote that she was a traveling worker. In addition to Combs and Bad Boy Enterprises employees, English lists Vibe magazine and Penske Media Corporation in the lawsuit, saying editors were aware of the intimate working happenings at the parties and published her picture in the magazine without her consent. What year was this again? 2004? Yes, I would say, I'm sure there were a lot of journalists and entertainment folks partying together back then, as they are now. So, English also lists Jacob Arabov, known in hip-hop circles as Jacob the Jeweler, as a co-defendant, asserting he was a frequent partner of hers who knew that she was being traveled by Combs and Bad Boys Entertainment. Diddy's dirty deeds against Danity Kane, Dawn Richard, and Kalena Harper. Former Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money star Dawn Richard filed a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, alleging the hip-hop mogul assaulted her, deprived her of food and sleep, and refused to pay her adequately. Richard says also that she witnessed Combs physically abuse his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura on numerous occasions and saw Combs and associates engaging in illegal drugs and intimacy with underage girls. Richard became associated with Combs in 2004 after auditioning for season 3 of MTV reality show Making the Band. Richard says that during auditions, Combs called female contestants names, including fat, ugly, and bi. She says that during the production of the show and in subsequent years, she and her bandmates were forced to rehearse for up to 48 hours with no rest and no food. In one instance, Richard was exercising on the beach and vomited. Instead of MTV providing medical assistance, crews filmed the incident. That's what the lawsuit says, y'all. Richard said in the complaint that Combs would often come into her dressing room unannounced. While she was working with a stylist, he would touch her bottom and around her chest to show where he wanted the clothing to fall. Richard said that Combs regularly asked her to strip down to her underwear in rehearsals, smacking her on her bottom, and conducted meetings only in his underwear. She says that if she retaliated, Combs would leave her off songs and performances. Danity Kane disbanded in 2009, but Richard continued working with Combs as a member of the newly formed Diddy Dirty Money, a trio that included Richard, Combs, and singer-songwriter Kalena Harper. Richard says she began fearing for her physical safety after she and Harper went to Combs' home in Los Angeles. Combs came into the kitchen and began berating Ventura for not cooking his eggs correctly, proceeding to throw a pan at her and drag her upstairs, Richard claims. The next day, Combs allegedly bought Richard and Harper flowers and said what they had witnessed was just a lover's argument where no one was hurt. If you say anything, there will be consequences. On other occasions, says Richard, Combs pulled Ventura out of a van by her neck and pinned her to the ground, punched her in the face in the bathroom of a party, and punched her in the stomach at a dinner in front of several high-profile celebrities, including Interscope Records founder Jimmy Iovine. Iovine and Combs had allegedly just struck up a $50 million distribution deal for Combs' music. The lawsuit states that even after Iovine watched Combs commit a violent assault in front of numerous high-profile witnesses, the Bad Boy Interscope deal took place and remained in effect, providing Combs with immense financial rewards and enabling him to commit further acts of violence without fear of repercussions. It says a lot of high-profile witnesses. So there were several people that saw and never said a word. Allegedly. Interscope Geffen A&M Records is named as a defendant in the lawsuit. The complaint states that Richard also saw the late Kim Porter, Combs' former girlfriend and the mother of several of his children, leaving a recording studio crying with face injuries. Also in the lawsuit, Richard says that in December 2010, Diddy Dirty Money was preparing for a performance on Saturday Night Live where Combs called Richard wanting to know her whereabouts. When she and Harper arrived at the studio, he repeatedly chided the women and called them names, drawing the attention of people in the lobby. Richard allegedly asked Combs to stop, and he drew a fist as if he were going to punch her. Combs' bodyguard stepped in and escorted Richard out of the studio and into the car, she says. Harper went after her, and the two were locked in the car for several hours. That's according to the lawsuit. Luckily, Richard had her phone with her and called her father. He arrived in New York from Baltimore a few hours later and threatened to call the police on Combs, who allegedly told him, "Think about your family and think about your daughter's career." After the SNL performance, Combs allegedly told Richard, "You don't call your dad unless you're in a hospital." After Danity Kane broke up, Richard's songs were still being recorded by other artists on Combs' Bad Boy Records. Richard says she was promised royalties and license fees, which she claims never to have received. Diddy Dirty Money has millions of single sales. Richard estimates she's owed about $1.2 million in unpaid wages and royalties, more than $350,000 for U.S. tour performances, and at least $1.5 million for promotion of Ciroc, a vodka brand Combs partnered with in 2007. Richard also alleges that she was not paid for her involvement in a planned reboot of Making of the Band 2020. She was supposed to appear as a judge in that, she said. Richard is asking for a jury trial. Let's hope they tape it. Compensatory damages, such as lost wages, royalties, publishing and touring, compensation for severe emotional distress, civil penalties, punitive damages, and attorney's fees. Harper, who is named 33 times in Richard's lawsuit, joined Richard to form the music duo Danity Kane in 2009. They soon signed to Bad Boy Entertainment and added rapper and label boss Combs to form the collaborative act Diddy Dirty Money. The group released its first album entitled Last Train to Paris in December 2010. Diddy Dirty Money disbanded in 2012. That didn't last long, honey. In 2014, Harper joined the cast of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Harper stated in a September 13, 2024 Instagram post that she wants to acknowledge Richard's claims, but that some do not align with her own truth. What part of Richard's experience that does not align with her own truth? Well, she really didn't make clear in that interview. Harper, who's been married to her manager Tony Vick since 2014, went on to say, "Tony and I have always conducted ourselves with the highest level of professionalism and integrity. We were not involved in, nor were we aware of, any behavior that could be considered abusive or unlawful." Prosecutors say that on the day that Richard filed her lawsuit, Combs called Harper 58 times around that 4-day period. Year of offense 2007. Diddy's dirty deeds against Lori-Ann Gibson. Lori-Ann Gibson alleges that Sean Diddy Combs threatened her with a chair on May 11, 2007, while New Edition's Michael Bivins held her in place. In 2005, Gibson was recruited by Combs to choreograph and help find emerging artists on MTV's Making the Band. In a more recent interview, Gibson said Combs learned everything from me. We have an amazing, interesting relationship because they say true friendship, true collaboration goes through changes and challenges, and we have. But what I've learned from him is the ability to understand this playing field as a business. Diddy's dirty deeds against Gerard Recknitzer. In a March 2007 lawsuit, Gerard Recknitzer accused Sean Diddy Combs of punching him and pushing his girlfriend at a February 2007 Oscar party. The lawsuit says Recknitzer and his girlfriend were leaving an event at Teddy's at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel in Los Angeles around 2 a.m. when Combs punched him without warning. According to the lawsuit, Combs was talking to Recknitzer's girlfriend when he approached. Combs, 37 at the time, then yelled at Recknitzer in a threatening and ominous manner, he says. Combs then intentionally, willfully, knowingly, and unlawfully attacked, assaulted, and battered Recknitzer, according to court documents, causing him to fly backwards several feet and hit a parked car. The lawsuit further alleges that Combs pushed Recknitzer's girlfriend and tried to spit on another woman in a parking lot. As he left, Recknitzer says Combs climbed halfway out of a car and stared him down. That lawsuit was settled in March 2008, and the terms were not disclosed. Year of offense, 2008. Here we are, y'all. Diddy's dirty deeds against Cassie Ventura. There is a video with this, and I am going to show it. Like I said earlier, I am going to show this video, so I caution you. This video shows a literal beatdown and a kidnapping. If there's someone that may be triggered by this, I would just ask that you would just turn this off and, maybe come back later, fast forward or something, and just know that our prayers are with you. And stay close to God. He is the great healer. It was the courageous Cassie Ventura standing up against Sean Diddy Combs that was the catalyst for exposure of one of stardom's most diabolical personas, possibly even a whole solar system of them. Ventura filed a November 2023 lawsuit under the New York Adult Survivors Act, giving probable cause for the investigation of Combs, who was eventually arrested 10 months later. The Bad Boy Records founder was charged in a Manhattan federal court with intimate traveling, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in fornication. On September 17, 2024, Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and William S. Walker, the acting special agent in charge of the New York Field Office of Homeland Security Investigations, announced that Combs has been arrested. The indictment alleges that between 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others, and led a racketeering, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice, among other crimes. Ventura, who was 19 years old when she met 36-year-old Combs, signed a 10-album deal, more like ownership papers, with Bad Boy Entertainment in February 2006. The lawsuit states, that summer her debut single Me and You was released, and her self-titled studio album dropped, with writing and production from the R&B singer Ryan Leslie, aka Castor Troy. Combs' vicious cycle of abuse begins here. Ventura alleges years of physical, psychological, and emotional abuse. She claims Combs forced her to purchase and take illegal substances, that he filmed her as he forced her to participate in intimacy with male workers in multiple cities for his own voyeuristic pleasure, and that he beat her on many occasions in retaliation for talking to other men, often with witnesses present. People have just turned their eyes and looked the other way all these years. Ventura said all of her life was controlled by either Combs or his management companies. She said that he paid for her apartment and all living expenses, and that he had access to her medical records. Ventura says she began experiencing memory loss in 2010, y'all, potentially due to excessive substance use and or head injuries caused by Combs' beatings. The lawsuit states that after getting medical tests done, Ventura's MRI results were provided directly to Combs. Combs also repeatedly arranged for his staff to drive her to certain doctor's appointments. Ventura says that in this way, Combs exerted ownership over her. Ventura says that in February 2012, Combs told her he was going to blow up the car of rapper Kid Cudi, who she was dating. Around that time, Cuddy's car exploded in his driveway. Cuddy, in a statement to the New York Times, corroborated Ventura's account. After multiple attempts to sever ties with Combs, Ventura says she met with him in September 2018 to have dinner and believed it was to talk about concluding her bad boy contract and to have a discussion about concluding their relationship for good. But after the dinner, Ventura alleges Combs forced himself into her apartment and assaulted her. Soon thereafter, Ventura took steps to completely separate from her longtime abuser, including by leaving the home that he paid for and returning the car purchased for her. One day after the public filing of her civil lawsuit, Ventura and Combs settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. In a statement shortly thereafter, Combs said, "I wish Cassie and her family all the best. Love." A few months later, on May 17, 2024, surveillance footage obtained by CNN showed Combs assaulting Ventura in 2016 at the International Los Angeles Century City Hotel. The video clips showed Combs pursuing Ventura down a hallway, throwing her to the floor, kicking her while she was on the ground, and dragging her off camera. Combs and Ventura dated on and off for 10 years. Year of offense, 2011. Diddy's dirty deeds against Kid Cudi. In a statement to the New York Times, Kid Cudi corroborates allegations by Cassie Ventura, declaring that Sean Diddy Combs did indeed set fire to his car. In the early morning hours of December 22, 2011, Combs and a co-conspirator kidnapped an individual at gunpoint to facilitate breaking into and entering the residence of another. The court documents read that multiple witnesses would testify at trial to the events surrounding the kidnapping and break-in, the latter of which is corroborated by police reports and other records. Combs' co-conspirators allegedly set fire to a car by slicing open the car's convertible top and dropping a Molotov cocktail inside the interior. Police and fire department records extensively document the arson and conclude that the fire was intentionally set. Year of offense, 2015. Diddy's dirty deeds against Sal Alosi. Y'all, this man got in a fight with his kid's coach. On June 22, 2015, when Sean Diddy Combs' son Justin Combs was a defensive back for UCLA's football team, Combs was arrested on the campus for assault with a deadly weapon following an altercation with Bruins assistant coach Sal Alosi, the strength and conditioning coach for UCLA. TMZ reported at the time that Alosi chewed out Justin during drills when Combs watched. Then, after the practice session ended, Combs went to the coach's office in the school's athletic facility around noon and accosted him. Allegedly, as staff was removing him from the office and into the weight room, Combs picked up a kettlebell, swinging it at an intern. Initial reports say Combs was charged with 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count of making terroristic threats, and 1 count of battery. Although reportedly Alosi had scratches on his face and his shirt was ripped due to the altercation, and video footage from UCLA's athletic facility and from personal cell phones of the incident was reviewed by city police, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office opted not to press charges against Combs. The DA's office referred the case to the city attorney's office on misdemeanor charges. Diddy's dirty deeds against Cindy Rueda. Cindy Rueda stated in a sworn declaration that she often worked 9 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. daily after signing an agreement to become Sean Diddy Combs' personal chef in 2015. Rueda says in a 2017 lawsuit that during her tenure with Combs, she was sexually harassed and forced to work long hours without being fully compensated for overtime. Rueda said in her declaration that her duties included shopping for groceries, stocking the house and kitchen with food, clearing and organizing the pantry, and preparing meals for Combs and his guests. Rueda said that while working for Combs, she was exposed to a harassing and hostile work environment. I bet. She said that on one occasion, she arrived late because of traffic, and that Combs, present with house guest Gina Huynh, yelled an obscenity at her, then asked, "Can't you see I have company?" Rueda said she apologized to Combs and Huynh, and that Combs told her to immediately prepare breakfast and serve it in his bedroom. The chef said that when she finished making breakfast, she brought the food to Combs' bedroom and knocked first, then entered to set up the meal. Upon entering, I noticed Combs and his guests were indisposed and engaged, Rueda said. Then Combs asked her if she liked his body. Rueda's allegation continued to include a June 2015 incident when Combs' manager commented on the size of her lips, and then he and one of her bosses asked a number of sexually oriented questions. She said one of her bosses told her to sign a confidentiality agreement as well as a promise to arbitrate any labor disputes. Y'all, I have had to sign a whole bunch of those. Ugh. It is, and I don't see how these can stand up to law sometimes, but sometimes they could be used, I'm sure, as like an intimidation factor. So you sign these NDAs, and basically, you're thinking, well, you can't say anything about what goes on because you could lose everything. But the truth of the matter is, if there is any law being broke, then that NDA is null. It's just not going to apply, because you can't, be subject to abuse or, some type of, harassment and things like that, because those are things that are against the law, and an NDA doesn't overthrow the law, so. Yeah, Rueda said she asked if someone could review the agreement because she did not understand it, but the supervisor told her not to share the paperwork with anyone or their offer would be rescinded and she would be fired. See? She's perfectly allowed to have her attorney or someone, a personal assistant or someone she trusts to look over that paperwork. She is. She says she eventually signed the agreements and that her annual salary was $91,000. Rueda also noted that she insisted when she signed the offer that she could not travel with Combs because she had children to care for and could not be away from them for long. On another occasion, a male house guest of Combs approached Rueda in the nude and asked her to look at and admire him after he had engaged in relations with another house guest. Her lawsuit states. Rueda was allegedly fired on May 8, 2016. A judge ruled on August 17, 2017, that Rueda's case would be heard by an arbitrator instead of a jury. Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Elizabeth Allen White said at the time that Rueda signed an employment agreement that, among other things, called for her to arbitrate any work-related disputes. This is really a plain vanilla arbitration agreement, White said, when she granted the motion by Combs' lawyers to compel arbitration. White rejected Rueda's attorney Crystal McKinney's argument that the language of the document was skewed unfairly in favor of Combs as the employer. The judge put the case on hold pending the outcome of the arbitration and set a post-arbitration status conference for a year later to the day, August 17, 2018. The lawsuit was settled in February 2019. No terms were divulged. Year of offense, 2019. Diddy's dirty deeds against Gina Huynh. Gina Huynh, who goes by the nickname Virginia V, alleged in a 2019 interview that Sean Diddy Combs stomped on her stomach and punched her in the head during their 5-year relationship. He stomped on my stomach really hard, Huynh told interviewer Tasha K. He kept hitting me. I was pleading to him, can you stop? I can't breathe. Huynh said Combs then grabbed her by the hair and was punching the back of her head. Hunn's relationship began with Combs when he was with on-again, off-again girlfriend Cassie Ventura. He was mentally, emotionally, and physically abusing me, Huynh said. He would always compare me to Cassie and tell me that I'm the bad one, she's the good one. Huynh said that everyone around Combs allowed the alleged abuse to occur. These patterns, they keep going and going. In her interview with Tasha K., Huynh said Combs paid her $5,000 to abort their baby when she became pregnant. She said she eventually started fighting back because she had enough of his shit. Year of offense, 2022. Diddy's dirty deeds against Rodney Little Rod Jones. Sean Diddy Combs' former producer, Rodney Little Rod Jones, is accusing Combs of physical and intimate assault from October 2022 to October 2023. Jones says that the abuse occurred in Combs' homes in Miami, New York, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Los Angeles. In a February 2024 lawsuit, which includes Combs' assistant, Christina Coram, Jones, who worked with Combs on his latest release, the Love album, Off the Grid, alleges that the music mogul groped him repeatedly. His lawsuit states that during the duration of making the album, Combs forced Jones to solicit intimate workers, take illegal substances, and more. In the lawsuit, Jones accuses Combs and others of grooming, abusing, and exploiting him. He claims the nearly billionaire Combs stiffed him on payment, publishing shares, and royalties. He alleges Combs cheated him out of more than $50,000 for his work, and then went on to threaten Jones for more than a year. Jones's complaint states that he was ultimately credited with producing 9 tracks on the album during 14 months of work, ending in November 2023. During that time, Jones was living and traveling with Combs. He became his videographer. In his lawsuit, filed in the New York federal court, Jones seeks $30 million in restitution. Jones also asserts in court documents that Combs' son Justin shot a 30-year-old friend of Justin's named G. Jones says G was shot twice inside a bathroom at Chalice Recording Studio in Los Angeles in 2022. Jones says G disappeared after the shooting, and that according to police reports, which does not name individuals involved, the victim was shot outside. Jones accuses Combs of orchestrating the cover-up. Diddy's dirty deeds against Grace Omarka. A lawsuit that names Sean Diddy Combs as a co-defendant alleges that his son, Christian King Combs, assaulted Grace Omarka on a yacht in late December 2022. The lawsuit filed in Los Angeles Superior Court says that Sean Combs created the circumstances that led to the assault and paid to cover it up afterward. Omarka, who worked as a crew member and a bartender on the boat, says Christian Combs pressured her to drink tequila that she believes was spiked with other substances. He groped her and attempted to force relations with her, the lawsuit says. Omarka, who was 25 at the time, said when Christian Combs, then 24, came aboard late one night, he appeared heavily intoxicated and began giving her inappropriate attention. She said the two were in a music studio on board the ship where producer Rodney Jones was told to be available around the clock for Sean Combs to work on his next album. Omarka says that in the lawsuit that Christian Combs was insistent that she take shots of tequila and she drank out of obligation. She alleges Christian Combs became increasingly aggressive with her, violently grabbing her arm as she tried to get out of the situation. The drinks made everything blurry unusually quickly, the lawsuit says. Microphones in the studio where Jones was told to capture everything recorded their exchange, and the lawsuit includes a transcript where Omarka demands that Christian Combs stop touching her. The lawsuit alleges that he later continued the assault in the ship's movie theater, which was used as a spare sleeping area where she was attempting to find a place to spend the night because the rooms were all taken. Thank God another crew member appeared and he stopped. Allegedly, y'all. Omarka told the yacht's captain about the assault the following morning, but she alleges that after Combs gave him a large amount of cash, the same day the captain failed to meaningfully investigate or take any action. Cover-up after cover-up. In putting this show together, y'all, I've tried to remain as discreet as possible with my reporting. But because of that, the horrendously gross extent of the disgusting abuse allegedly done to these women and men by Combs and others, it really goes lost, y'all. There are countless lawsuits out now against Combs. And really, there's a lot of unaccounted for people involved. Many have not been named yet. World leaders, superstars, elite kingmakers. There's many unnamed victims involved, ones I have not named here. Lawmakers have a meticulous job ahead of them. They have to pick out what can be corroborated with evidence and what cannot. My prayers are with all the victims involved in this situation, especially the children. There are several allegations against Combs and others involving children. Right now, Combs sits in a New York jail awaiting trial. He has been denied bail several times, and yet the reputation he has shown all of us these many years is as diabolical as it seems. We are going to be talking about this for a long time. The sun is shining, folks. God is exposing the darkness, so don't be surprised if we see others facing charges related to Diddy's dirty deeds.